Hello and welcome once again to Exit Strategy. This is the podcast where we ask comedians, what would you do with your life if comedy was no longer a part of it? You've spent so much time working on that comedy career, so much energy, so many eggs put in that comedy basket. Now I'm going to take it all away. What would you do? It's a big decision. It's a tough decision, but I'm here to ask the tough questions. But I'd like to do it in a really fun way because what kind of a jerk would I be to invite my friends and peers over and just grill them? That'd be a totally different podcast. I think it'd be a lot less pleasant. And I think that when people listen to podcasts, they want pleasantries. You're probably on your way to work, on your way back from work. Maybe you're doing the dishes. You don't need me giving the nth degree to my buddies. No, let's keep it light. But also, I'm going to dig in because this is a heady subject, and I like getting into it. I've liked the past few episodes talking with my friends, getting real about this interesting dilemma of, all right, what are the priorities in our lives and careers, and what should they be? And are we making the right decisions? Did we make the right decisions in the past, and are we making the right decisions in the future? Or is there even such a thing as a right decision? Makes you think. Today on the show, I'm talking to my friend Ron Babcock, a comedian I've known for quite some time here in Los Angeles. Ron is always a pleasure to watch on stage. He's always given the audiences a little bit more than just your traditional stand-up, a little bit more than just jokes. He's always putting on a performance, something unique, something different. We talk about this. He's got a lot of different interests, and he likes to pull all of his interests into his performance so that you don't just see the same old set all the time. And I appreciate that, and I admire that. Ron Babcock is also an editor for television, so he's got an artistic job, but he's also got the artistic career of comedy. We talk about sort of riding that line of using your creativity for career versus using your creativity for the pursuit of art, and how you juggle that, and if it's what's the difference between doing the safe thing versus doing the thing that might give you that stand-up glory. And in the end, just like all guests, we let Ron choose the sponsor for the show. We don't have sponsors on Exit Strategy, so I let the guest choose. But in this case, Ron's coming at it with some experience because he's actually been out on tour sponsored. He's already have sponsorship experience. So we're going to listen in. He knows what he's talking about when it comes to selling out big time. Sorry, Ron. No, Ron has already had a sponsorship opportunity, so I'm anxious to find out who's going to sponsor this episode. We all find out in a bit. But first, let's get down to it. Let's talk about what would he do with his life if comedy was no longer a part of it. Ron Babcock, what is your exit strategy? Let's find out right after this. Home tips before we launch into talking about Ron Babcock?
All I have is home tips.
All he's got is home tips.
Yeah.
What would you like if somebody, and if that somebody also was me, asked you, Ron, what's your number one home tip? What's something I should be doing that I'm not doing?
Well, I mean, listen, I always go, if you want a nice place, you just got to do the 3 Ps, which is prints, paint, and plants. And looking at your space right now, prints on target. Yep. You are just killing it. You have vintage national park prints. They look great. I'd say if you wanted to brighten up your space, I think you should you could paint your kitchen and you don't even have to do the whole thing. You could just do one of these accent walls. Bit, And I always say the best thing to do is instead of paint's actually surprisingly expensive. Yeah. So go to Home Depot or Lowe's, go to their paint department, and there'll always be a bin of mistake paints. Like interior designers want a certain yellow and it'll be slightly off tint.
Not quite that yellow.
So that stuff's always half off. So just go there and grab one that you kind of like.
That is actually a legitimately great tip.
Yeah, and if you're doing your kitchen, you probably want to do a semi-gloss or a high gloss finish rather than a matte because a matte will show scuffs. But really, I think looking around your place, the only thing I would recommend, because I think your place is great, I just think you need some plants.
And when you said the 2 Ps, other than the prints, this is my. Let me give you my situation. Maybe you have more advice. Maybe you don't. Maybe we're going to talk about this for another 3 hours. I don't know. But prints, when we moved in here a couple years ago, I think the first time both of us as an adults were like, yes, let's make a conscious effort to put stuff on the wall, and it's great. The painting, something about being a renter, I'm always too intimidated to even broach the subject of it. Or do you ask permission, or you just do it?
I both. Depends on how I feel about the landlord and how much my security deposit was. I always check the lease. Usually, I have a pretty good relationship with the landlord. And I'll ask like, "Hey, can I paint?" And if they say like you may need to paint it back, I've lived in my one place for over 8 years. And at that point, it's like you're not getting like I got some of my security deposit back because they liked me, so I just kind of do it. If I'm gonna be someplace over a year, I'm like screw it.
I think we've been here long enough that we got to either do that or move the hell out.
Plants are nice because and like you can go to Home Depot, you could get plants, or you just like go on Facebook Marketplace, just type in plants. Yeah, somebody's always selling a damn succulent for $10.
Well, my relationship with the third P is I have never had a green thumb. We've had them before. They never work out. It's never been a situation that we feel knowledgeable enough to pull off.
I'm actually very similar. Like I don't do well with plants, which is why I kind of stick to like succulents and like snake tongue. It's the one that sticks straight up. I think it's also called mothers-in-law. Yeah. And like those are great because they're so hard to kill. I mean, you can still kill them. Yeah. But I have not watered them for like a month.
See, that's the thing. I need a plant that's hard to kill. I need a plant that doesn't need like a specific amount, like a very specific amount of sunlight. Like I just need something that's like foolproof.
You just gotta get yourself some succulents, man. I mean, it's amazing how little you need to water those, and it's nice. It makes the place nice.
You come back in a year, we'll see if Ron's tips have been.
It's good. It's actually good, like healthy. Like they actually, recycle some of the air. Yeah. So it's kind of like a cheap air purifier.
Okay.
Literally, Jeff. All I want to do is just like Ron-splain to the world my tips. That's like Martha Stewart Living. That was my favorite magazine growing up. Like Sean Green, he once told me, he's like, dude, you would have made like the best gay guy. And I'm like, I know what you're saying, and I kind of agree, I guess. Yeah. But I just love this shit, man. I love like, but I hate the word life hacks. I don't know. I think the
life hacks just seems very like memey. It's like a meme.
Yeah, or it's just like they tell you shit that like, hey, you've been like opening a banana wrong your whole life, and you're like, no, I'm not. I haven't. I've opened it and it's been fine. I've eaten every banana I've tried to open. Like I hate like that kind of shit where they teach you to do things that you're like, that's just so stupid, or no one's ever going to do that. But I like things that actually can make your life better, that don't cost you a lot of money, that are also like good for the environment. Because like deep down, I'm just a big hippie.
We were talking about it before we started, that you asked me about starting a podcast. I think Ron's Tips or Ron's Splaining or some sort of Ron's Tips.
It's called the Babcock Tip. I kind of do it on my...
I feel like you've already got a pretty good plan.
I do a segment on a friend's podcast. And each week I have a tip that they're all ready to shit on. And then I tell them it, and they're always like, begrudgingly like, that's actually a pretty good idea. So
it's time to go. It's time to expand that, baby.
I put a lot of thought and effort into it. I think I'm going to start doing it, but I just want like, one of those like 10-minute podcasts.
Yes.
Because this is what I like is like when you're in and out, and I'm like, it's like when you watch a YouTube video, when you're like trying to learn how to do something.
Yes.
And it's like they give you like a title and a music sting, and you're like, bro, I don't need 30 seconds of this shit. I just need to know like how to get a CD out of my Mac when it's stuck in there. Like that's it. Just tell me that.
I take a gamble and I start skipping through to look to like, all right, what's the frame where it looks like they're about to start telling me stuff? I might be missing a lot of very valuable information. Like, before we start, absolutely don't do this, and I skip that to the part like, all right, let's begin. Like,
I work as an editor in kids TV, and a lot of times I work in Adobe Premiere, and I like want to learn how to do something, so I'm constantly watching YouTube videos, and man, that is just brutal because you're just looking at some dude on a screen like, oh man, oh crap, okay, like it's like watching someone trying to learn how to play guitar for the first time, where like they have the information but they're so bad about explaining it to you, and it makes me really appreciate good teachers.
Yeah.
Because that is such a good quality to have when you can efficiently explain something to someone and not like stumble your way through it. Like I really appreciate
you can
people.
really cut through a lot of bullshit
Yeah.
if you're a good teacher. And I think that that's actually kind of that's an interesting jumping in point, because I think that one of the exit strategies that a lot of people have picked on this podcast as comedians has been teachers.
Oh, really?
I think that there is some similarity between those two paths, and I think there's a lot of skills that you get with comedy that you would also be utilizing in teaching.
Do you know Ryan McKee?
I don't.
He's we started out together,
Yeah.
and he's one of my best friends, and we started out as a duo in Arizona. And one of his jobs he got was a high school teacher.
Yes.
As his day job. And he taught at an arts high school, which means he didn't have a teaching certificate. And I remember texting him his first day, like, how's it going? And he goes, I'm bombing. And I'm like, dude, you're not.
No, that's brutal.
You're not bombing. He's like, they're not laughing at anything. He's like, I'm like, dude, you're teaching geography. Like, they're not supposed to be laughing.
Yeah, the material's not funny.
But he said he said it was just like this crazy job, but he had this steady job for a while and actually paid money.
Yeah.
Like the kids liked him because he was like young and. He would always try jokes on him and stuff like that. Like, I don't know if these kids learn geography, but...
Well, yeah, you can't dig... I mean, that's just going to be in there forever. You're always going to go for the laugh. But the thing that I've noticed after watching performing on a very high level, not just my own, but mostly watching other people in, the world-class entertainment capital of the world, I have no patience and no tolerance, just no sympathy for somebody who's giving any sort of presentation in any other form, be it at work or somebody's introducing a movie Q&A or something. I have no tolerance for people who can't muster up even the slightest bit of stagecraft.
It's brutal. It's
I can't handle
absolutely brutal. I remember going to a bunch of silent movie Cinespia events.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the weirdo guy? I don't know who he was, but he was some guy who got in trouble for doing creepy shit. And I think his name
sounds like a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was I don't know what his name was, Julian or something.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
I remember he hosted Adventures of Pete and Pete panel, and it made me physically angry because his opening question was, "Hey man, isn't this cool?" And then they spent a half hour going around being like, "Yeah, this is cool," and it is. It makes me so because maybe it's because it's kind of easy for us.
Yeah.
If you went to a wedding and you all of a sudden had to give a toast, would that bother you at all?
Not at all.
Yeah. And other people would
Yeah.
be terrified by that. But I go into situations sometimes and I almost have a short 3-minute speech because I've been in situations where they're like, "Hey, you do comedy? Do you want to?" And I will be writing little gags in my head based on that room just in case I get thrown up.
Yeah.
In this weird family gathering, which is a weird way to go through
you
life.
got to make a little set list in your mind.
Yeah.
You just have to formulate. I think that's one thing that just happens as a comedian. You formulate your thoughts. You give it a beginning, a middle, and end. You think of things that you can pepper in there. You prepare yourself with lightning speed for a situation like that. And whenever I have to talk in a work meeting, I'll have... And I'm not even consciously doing it, but I'll have a line in there.
Oh, yeah.
I'll hook them with something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you do well in job interviews?
I don't. Yes, I do.
Because I feel like a lot of comedians. I mean, it's we're kind of cut from two different cloths. We're either the extrovert, big, gregarious, kind of life of the party, or we're super awkward and just kind of more introspective. And I know for me, job interviews, that kind of audience, I got this.
Yeah.
Because you know why? Because nobody is expecting you to be funny. So even if you're slightly funny, it's so oh, well, he's just got a nice personality. It's the bar is so much lower.
Yeah.
It's just don't be weird and just smile a lot, and you'll be fine.
You can be charming pretty easily in that situation. Because also it's just it's such a tense environment anywhere. And I think that, as a comedian, you're there to cut tension. So it's whoop, bam, perfect.
You just need one or two lines to cut the tension and be and it's great.
The only reason I hesitated is because I had to rack my mind, and I feel like I didn't get a lot of job interviews. Getting in the door didn't
Yeah.
do it. But had I gotten into the door, a lot of the places, I would have killed it.
Yeah.
I'd be living on the west side, Ron. I'd be living on the west
we
side.
like the east side.
Hey, I love the east side, but I'm a rich man. I'm living on the west side in this scenario.
I know.
Now, Ron, I've known you for a long time.
We have for like... Actually, you know what? When you called me, I didn't know
Who it was?
Yeah, because you do want to know how you're listed in my phone.
How?
I have no idea why this is, but I have you listed as... here, let me show it to you.
If you say Matt Champagne, I'm going to be...
No, it's Jeff, get your shit together.
All one word.
All one word.
He's showing it to me.
I don't know why I would ever put this as your last name.
Jeff, get your shit together. It's
I'm
my name in your phone.
I'm sure it was like drunkenly at a bar or
At
something.
some point.
I perceived some social flub, and I'm like, you know what your name is? Jeff, got your shit together. Because I'm just like, I can be kind of yelly.
Well, I have to ask the question, do you think that this was a collaborative name effort on both of our parts, or were you like
Maybe because
so mad?
Every other person in my phone is their first name and their last name. I do not do nicknames. I'm always very like by the book. I want to know who's calling, and you are the only person in my phone who has a nickname, except for my girlfriend, whose last name is Boo.
Well, I mean, that's fair.
But that's not her real last name.
But you probably call her more than you call me.
That would have been great if that was her real last name.
But that had to have been terrifying when Jeff Get Your Shit Together texts you and says, where are you, Ron?
Yeah, I was like, by the way, I felt terrible about, it was like the second time that's ever happened, but blanking on a podcast. I was like, we just got back into town, and it was Jeff, and I honestly was like, what is this?
It's a message from God.
And then it clicked, and I was like, oh no, you, Ron, get your shit together.
Oh, man. Well, I've known you for a long time. Apparently, we had inside jokes as far back as 2000 and whatever, because I don't remember that at all. But all throughout you doing comedy, you've always you've always been more than just a joke guy. Mm-hmm. You've always had other elements of... you had a mime bit there for a while. You used to do. I was going to say play, but what is the verb for devil sticks?
The devil sticks.
Perform devil
sticks. Juggle devil
yeah.
sticks. Yeah.
Where
sadness devil sticks. Yeah, I think that's it.
And then it feels like you always came. Talking about preparing for things, it feels like that you prepare sort of more above and beyond.
I'm always like a type A kind of person.
Yeah.
Like I think I start to wing it now that I'm like way more comfortable.
Yeah.
But I think in the beginning I was so like, I'm a person who exists because he wants to hear the words "good job," So I'm always going to prepare. Ready. I'm the son of teachers, so I'm going to follow the syllabus. Like your podcast, you told me the premise, and I made sure to all right, I got what I would be if I didn't do comedy. I have it in my head.
Well, I'm glad because sometimes I'm not sure when people come in and I feel like, am I telling you the premise to this for the first time? And
I get people like that, comedians like that drive me fucking crazy. And I'm also insanely jealous of it. Of the ability to live that much in the moment.
Yeah.
Because you see them perform and it's kind of like this special where sometimes when you prepare, it almost seems a little too polished or a little too people want to see that moment, to live that moment with you.
Yeah.
So I think it took me a long time to have something to be prepared and super polished, but also feel like it's in that moment and it's not like I'm just pressing play on a tape recorder.
You could break out of it if need be. If a situation in the room dictated that, okay, we need to acknowledge that.
You know what? Honestly, what did that was just going on the road a bunch.
Yeah.
You go on the road and you just learn to once a curveball happens, you just forget that bit. Just move, address what's in the room, have fun, and then go on to the next bit. Because whenever you try and double back around and be like, yeah, but about mattresses, it never works. Which sucks because a lot of times I get interrupted on what I consider to be my strongest punchlines.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, nobody remembers anything.
That's a hard lesson to learn though. There's a stubbornness and I've definitely felt it too where wait, why am I you'll maybe the situation that always pops into my head is you'll go off on something in that moment and it gets a huge response and it's oh man, I have a minute left. I should probably just get off the stage. But then you're no, I have a prepared closer that has a totally different energy. It's just like I feel like with me personally, I have to either go spontaneous or go written, and it's hard to bounce in between the two.
Yeah, I feel like I go back and forth, and it's like you're always just trying to strike that balance. And I know when it's like, I know when I'm doing it, and I'll like kind of force myself.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll force myself to go up on stage and not really have anything, and like, but then I also kind of like. Again, like I hate when comics do that, and I love when comics do that because it's like, oh, great, I get to watch this guy dick around for 8 minutes, and be the guinea pig. But then a lot of times it's like, they find something that's like awesome that they wouldn't have found otherwise. So.
And really, even a successful set, you're still watching somebody go up and dick around. Like, there's no the definition of performing stand-up, especially if you're doing it in an open mic night situation, it's still like, we're all just
and open mics are also just like, man, do whatever the fuck you want. Like that's for me is like I don't care. Like I love when I go to open mics and I see people doing like weird shit, and just like eating it or doing really well. Like I think open mics have to be that place that is just like almost insane.
It's I feel like the American public needs to just experience it.
Well, I mean, I remember when I first moved to LA and I just would feel terrible because there were open mics, like you would just be in a coffee shop, right?
Yeah.
And then you see somebody would come in and they would see you on stage and then they just turn around and go right back out. And of course the comedian on stage starts attacking them. And I'm like, they came here for a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Like they're not the weird ones. Like you'd be doing like those restaurant shows that we used to do. There's like one in a Thai food restaurant. There's a guy doing like asshole bits. And you're like, dude, like, and he's like, can you believe this plate? And I'm like, yeah, I can because it's a restaurant. And you're not supposed to talk about your asshole in a restaurant.
95% of the time, this isn't what this is.
Yeah, it's just like this weird thing where you're like kind of doing surprise comedy. You're trying to like learn your craft by doing surprise comedy on the general public. And I mean, but then, of course, I love that because it feels great when you can turn a room and you could get them to like be interested in what you have to say. You know, I'm pretty big on stage. I can be pretty loud, so generally it's easier for me because I'm just kind of shouting, and I can do that for five.
Demand some attention.
Yeah, I can demand attention for 5 to 7 minutes. And get some response, and then like of course, and then you start to go out on the road and you do like hour-long sets, and you have to learn how to like measure your energy, so that it's not like because you can't maintain that for an hour. Audiences can't maintain that for an hour; it's too much. So you have to like start to learn like structure, okay, like a flow of an hour. It's kind of nice,
and that's got to take a while to adjust to. I mean, especially if you come from Los Angeles, where I think the most time you're ever going to get on most shows is going to be like 10 minutes, maybe 12.
I mean, and like the further outside of Los Angeles you go, the more time you can get. You could find those 20-minute sets like somewhere up the coast a little bit, or those like weird kind of brewery shows like in Santa Barbara, which are actually like crazy fun because there's just people who want to see comedy. Yeah,
it's amazing how much different the experience is when you just leave city limits. Like the audience is just, even if you just go to Long Beach sometimes, it's just like, it's a different audience. It's not an audience that's there to be because this is the cool thing to do, or like they're like they feel as though they're doing something important by supporting art. They're just people who are like, let's enjoy this.
I always used to get actually depressed when I would come back off the road because you go from being like the guy, you're like the center of attention, and like you're like the thing for that night. And I mean, you're not the biggest thing in the world, but for that night, you're like this little kind of town's like one of the attractions, and it feels good. And like people are like excited that you're there.
The circus is in town, baby.
And the 3-ring Babcock, right? And then
That's the name of the podcast.
You come back home and you're just like, hey, Ron. And it's like, is 5 cool? And like, hey, do you mind going up first? And you're just like, yeah, that sounds good. I have good energy, so I don't mind.
Oh, boy. Did you find that happens to you a lot? You got the first one a lot?
For a long time, I either would open or I would close.
Yeah.
I would close like the shows that like weren't that big. I don't want to say good, but they weren't that big. Or I would open because I'm energetic, and people really like that. And I always was like, I mean, I never tried to like bitch about it too much. One time I think I did when I opened a certain show like 3 times, and I was like, dude, can I just go up second for one? But I always looked at it as like, it's going to make you better in the long run. So it's like, it's like doing an extra rep or whatever. Like, cause it's a little, and it can be great actually. It can be awesome because you set the tone. But I would get asked to host a lot. And actually, I really like hosting.
Yeah, it's its own thing.
It's I went to a show in London. My sister lives there, so I'll go over there a bunch to visit her, and I'll do shows.
Yeah.
And over there, they have a compere, which is weird that they use a French word. And it's kind of he's the host headliner. He is it's like you're there to see the host, and then there's like his friends or her friends, where they bring them up. But the host is like the one in charge. So if a comedian doesn't perform well, it's the host job to get the audience back. So it's their night. And once I saw that, I was like, oh, like if I just treat this like this is my night,
no,
then it's like all of a sudden it's like it's not just like, hey, your next comic, like you kind of make it something.
Yeah,
and it's actually like a lot of fun.
You're kind of like a conductor of the vibe of the room in a way. I've always found it's like And that's the frustrating thing, and that because when I would be ever put in that place of, all right, we want you to go first. For a while there, that happened to me a lot, and it's frustrating because I know that I'm better in the middle. It just takes me a while to warm up to the room, and I think it's because
same way about sex.
Yes, exactly. If I go first, I have a natural inclination to host the show, to like have that energy, which is I think a little too needy and a little too positive for me. Yeah. So whenever I host. Because I have a show I host once a month. We rotate at Sauce. And hosting the show, I always am like, it feels like there's a weird restraint on me where I have to be likable. But if you just go up and you're a set amongst 8 in the middle.
You have no you have responsibility to yourself. You want to do well. But like the host, you feel like.
But I could run this baby into the ground if that's what I'm feeling. And I think that's my right. If I want to have a complete meltdown, I can't do it as a host because I have too many other people relying on me.
Have you ever had a meltdown set where you just like lost it?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I've had sets where it's like I have to leave immediate, like from the stage out the door. Like I can't.
I had one after a breakup. I was doing a magic show in Santa Monica. I was performing behind the bar, I'd have to keep changing spots with the bartender. So it was like there'd be a magician.
Wait, like actually behind the bar?
Yeah.
Like, oh. God.
So this was the whole setup where they actually had a theater, like with seats, but they were like, you know what? Let's do the show at the bar. So they would do like close-up magic at the bar, which was legitimately cool. There's a bartender there serving you drinks. There's a guy doing close-up magic. You're at the bar. Awesome. And then they'd have a comic come, and you're constantly having to get out of the way of the bartender going to the well, vodka, and also like timing your punchline so it doesn't hit with the ice scoop going into the like ice.
Nightmare.
And I remember like I just literally came like from like going through a breakup, and I remember I was like, so I'm going through a break, and I was just brutal. And I remember it ended, and it's weird when you could just see your audience's eyes so close. They were as close as we are across this kitchen table to one another. And it's just a awkwardly, physically close distance when you're having this weird... Because everyone's face is like, are you okay?
Yeah.
And that's not like the feeling that you want to get in a comedy show.
No, you don't want pity.
Yeah.
Well, maybe a little.
I mean, a little pity's okay.
Yeah, the bombing thing, I think that... fortunately, it's been, I guess not bombing, melting down, which is its own level. I think there's bombing and then there's having a complete
put it like this, like people don't really remember the bombs, but man, do they remember the meltdowns.
Comics, remembering comedians' meltdowns, it's such a fun time.
When a comedian starts a sentence with, you know what? Like, it's going to get good.
Or you can tell when they've delivered a line that was supposed to get laughs. It doesn't. Pause, look down. Yeah. Here comes the meltdown. And then it's just rage. But the thing I like about meltdowns is that there's at least some passion behind it. It's got, like I feel like that's what sets it apart from a bomb. Yeah, it's raw, it's real. And a lot of times I think a meltdown can actually turn into something, whereas a bomb, I don't know.
I don't know. Sometimes I think the more you do it and the more confident you get at it and the more shows you do, the more you realize that like if you just keep talking, something will come out that'll be funny. Yeah. That'll break the tension, and I think the comedians I really admire are the ones who can push, who are comfortable in that tension.
Yeah,
like a Roy Scovel or like a Sean Patton or like a Moshe Kasher, like they will just sit with that tension in the room, and they're fine with it because they know that there's something on the other side of it. And I always really like admire that because I I'm okay with a little bit of tension, but they go to a level that I'm like, I'm not okay with that much tension.
No, you can feel it when you know that there's just this pause that's a little too long, and I'm sure it's like seconds for the audience. But
for you, it's
if
like
you're
a minute.
in it. Oh boy, that is like an adjustment you kind of have to make of like, this isn't the end. This can be salvaged, but I think for when you begin, that's it. It's over.
Yeah,
we're not coming back from that.
When you begin, you're more just kind of like, it's like a kid with a toy where you're just excited to be getting a reaction.
Yeah,
like that's why there's a lot of new comics who do such like blue dirty material, because it's like they're just stoked that they can say words and get this massive reaction from an audience. And I think like the good comics are the ones who kind of progress beyond that. They realize like, okay, I get that, but then there's a little bit more wit to it. I started out in Phoenix, Arizona, and there are a lot of comics who never progressed beyond that point. So we had so many who were just like filthy.
Oh yeah,
like and filthy like to the point where some were really clever about it, and then some were just like just kind of shock jock kind of stuff.
Yeah,
a lot of like race stuff, which is just like, oh, cool, tight.
It still works.
Tell me what are Mexicans like.
I can always tell how long somebody's been doing comedy with the percentage of their material that is involving jacking off.
Yeah.
That's usually the tell for me. Like, okay, you're kind of new to this. You're still talking about that, which is like the ultimate of, this is only for you.
Yeah.
But it's nice that as you go on, you sort of learn to use your instrument. Ugh, I'm going to barf just saying that.
Yeah.
It's
so hard to
cringy.
talk to wax poetic about like an art form where we talk about our dick like a lot.
But we rarely do it. I don't really talk shop, I guess, on this podcast, but like in conversations with other comedians, you don't really get into this.
No, I used to hang out with certain comedians, and like we'd be driving to shows, and they just would be talking shop.
Yeah,
we're talking about how hard they like killed at a
Well,
show, and I was like, can't we literally talk about anything else? Like because it's just, we do this so much, we watch it all the time. Like, does anyone want to talk about a movie that they saw?
No.
Like I'm fine not talking about comedy like in real life. It's just like, because it takes up like how much more of my life do you want? I want to have some things that are not comedy.
It sucks you in, and that's all that you can think about. I mean, that's why this podcast is so interesting, because we go through our comedy lives, and it just is in our bloodstream, and it's hard to get it out. And we've talked about it before, in elements of like watching other people in situations where they're not comedians. We still judge them by comedian standards.
Yeah,
it's hard to get it out of our system. But I'm gonna go ahead and do that for you, Ron.
Okay,
I'm gonna take it out of your system.
Oh my God, thank you.
With force. That's the whole point of the damn podcast.
I'm already like getting naked. I'm like, is this how you're supposed to do it?
Let me close the curtains. Ron, I'm going to take comedy out of your life completely. I know you've been doing it for a long time. It's been very good to you, and it's been all consuming. But I'm going to take it away from your life. If you had to start fresh today without comedy in your life, and just focus all those energies on something new, what would be your exit strategy? What's the path you're going down?
Well, I kind of have two answers.
I'd love to hear them both.
All right. So the first answer is kind of the thing that I already do. Mm-hmm. And that is, I work as an editor in TV.
Yes.
And I've always kind of worked as an editor, and I never really told that many people about it. And I would turn down a lot of jobs because I wanted to just do stand-up.
Yes.
And the thing is like when you're an editor in job interviews, the fact that I did stand-up actually made me an attractive candidate, because they were like, okay, he gets timing. And a lot of times you could find editors, but like finding an editor who's good at timing, especially comedic timing, can be a little bit more difficult. So I got my start editing for this like skateboard channel. There was plenty of like people doing skateboard videos, but they just couldn't edit jokes. They didn't quite get it. So that's how I started doing stuff and getting paid for it. So I'm still doing that because, Lunky Ronnie was flying a little close to the sun for a while and definitely needed a job with health insurance.
Yes.
And so right now I edit in kids TV, kids animation, which is kind of a weird world to fall into, and I really like it. So that's kind of like my exit strategy. But if you took that away from me and you gave me like carte blanche, like, Ron, what do you want to do? I totally would be an urban designer.
Okay, I believe that. I completely believe that.
It just seems like the coolest gig. And maybe it isn't. Maybe it's one of those gigs where you show up to the office and you're like, this is kind of sad. But I like the idea of being able to like design a public park
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the coolest shit in the world.
Well, you came in here with the 3 Ps, and this is just my apartment.
I mean, listen, I have some ideas, but I got to tell you, you're doing most of them.
Well, before we get into urban planning, because I want to do this, I do want to touch on this idea of, as an editor, you're sort of living parallel lives artistically, where you've got stand-up, and then you've also got the career portion of it. Are you the kind of person, are you like me, where in a job situation, you kind of don't want people to know that you're a stand-up comedian?
You know, it's weird. When I first started doing jobs, I kind of I liked when people knew I did stand-up.
Yeah.
I feel like I got like a little like cachet about it, and I would post stuff, and because I'm like, yeah, man, I'm doing stand-up. I'm fucking doing it, bro. And like I was more like aggressive about it. And now at my job, people are like, when are you going to invite us to a show? And I'm just like, it's really fine. Like, I don't
need to scratch that itch.
You know what? Because it's like, I don't mind. I love to put stuff out there, but then like, sometimes when people are like, hey, that was a funny tweet. Like, I don't need that hear any of this. And it's like, because for some reason it makes me feel weird. Like, I don't know. Like, I just feel weird about it. So I'm okay with people like not talking about it because I get the attention I desire, like, on stage.
Yeah, from strangers.
Yeah, I've been able to, like, because I started, like, a lot of comedians start out as being, like, the class clown type, and that was me.
Yeah.
And I was always really loud at parties, and I was, like, extra and just a lot. And when I started doing comedy, I started to calm down in my real life because I was getting that out on stage, and then I didn't need it anymore in my real life. And I feel like I'm still that way, where I kind of just get that out, like, doing this or, like, doing shows, and, like, I don't need that so much focus on me and my actual life.
Exhausting to be that stage level, always on demand for coworkers too. It's just like, I can't be that night person in the daytime.
But then also, like, let's say I don't do stand up anymore. Then I'm okay just being like a super funny guy at the office. Like, I like that guy.
Yeah.
Like, that guy's, because when you're if you're like, I mean, we have friends who like just don't do comedy for whatever reason anymore. It's not fun for them anymore, but they're still super fucking funny. And I'm just like, man, they must kill it at the office. Like, they just must destroy, because they have like, a good 5-10 years under their belt.
Yeah.
Like, they know how to perform. They know how to like make jokes in conversation.
They're just naturally, they got it.
Yeah, they got it.
Yeah. And they just don't have, it's like what you choose to focus your energies on, and I'm a little curious, almost for my own sort of comparison. When you're going down, because you talked about how you took the editing jobs because financially it's just more responsible.
It's weird. You know how you're always like good at the thing that you don't want to be good at?
Yes.
Like, for me, it's editing, and it's not like I don't like editing. I actually really enjoy it, but it's like I want to be good at stand-up.
Yes.
But the thing that I'm good at, like, that really, like, there's a lot of stand-ups like me, like if my comedic voice were to disappear tomorrow, like, the world would be okay, But like, as an editor, like, that's the thing I've always kind of, for whatever reason, the way my mind is, like, I'm pretty type A about stuff. It's like all my little weird, like, things in my head, like, that I'm like kind of hyper focused and obsessive and super detail oriented. In the world of editing, those are all like awesome traits.
Yeah.
Like, you want an editor who's like an insane organizationalist, and who can carry a lot of stuff in his head at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the thing I've always kind of excelled at, but I never really put that much work into it. I always was doing it as a means to an end. Where now, like, as I get older and older, I'm like, well, maybe I should just like focus on editing. Like, I don't know. It's like I'm kind of at a crossroads.
Did you struggle with that when you were a few years ago? A little less, I don't know. I feel like lately the financial realities of this world, they're very clear and very stark. But did you grapple at one point where you're like, oh man, should I be spending more time on stand-up? Should I be spending more time?
I always grapple with it. I feel like my biggest, like, hindsight's always 20/20, and I feel like when I first started, the first person I ever opened for was Patton Oswalt.
Yeah.
And it was just when he was like really starting to pop. He was already on King of Queens, so he had already popped in my mind.
But like alt pop.
But like, he was like getting big. And my buddy Ryan and I, who I was in a comedy duo with, he was the first person we opened for. And he's by far one of the coolest headliners I've ever worked with.
Yeah.
Where he took us out afterwards, got us drunk. We went to his hotel room, which was like, he was like this really nice place. And he like pushed on the wall, and just the door opened up because it was a fridge inside the wall. And he was like, eat, drink whatever the fuck you want. I don't care. And we were all like, just like basically open micers, like eating peanut M&Ms and like drinking vodka from the little mini bottle. And he's just like, and we were like, do you have any advice? And he said, he's like, just do everything. Do everything for the first 5 years. Like, don't think about it. Just do everything. And so we did. We did so much. We were doing like improv and sketch and stand-up, and we were making a magazine and doing videos and going out on auditions. And then he said, at year 5, choose one thing, the one thing you like, and then just do that. And that's the thing I didn't do, is I kept trying to do everything. So I felt like I became really okay at a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I never like focused as much as, because that's like, I've always kind of been a jack of all trades guy, which is why, like you said, like with my stand-up, I always had like kind of a ton of crazy stuff, because that's what I liked.
Because you wanted to try everything.
Yeah. And who knows, maybe it'll still like work out, but like, I don't know, to go to your original question, like I've always kind of grappled with it. Yeah. And for a lot of times I just would turn down editing gigs. And then after a while you're just like, I would have reasons why I would turn stuff down, like it was too far away, or like the pay was crap, or you know, it was like a show I didn't want to work on. And then I got a job where like literally
you lost your excuses.
I lost every single and it was like, and I walked in and I was like, I just met the people and I was like, God damn it, this is a really good gig.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad I took it. It's a really great gig, and I've worked there for 2 years, and I actually like going to work.
Yeah.
Which is a cool thing.
Yeah, not a lot of people can say that.
Yeah, and I've definitely, there's been jobs I've had where I haven't been able to say that. So I'm just kind of like enjoying it for what it is now.
You never know what's going to happen in life and where you're going to find satisfaction that you maybe didn't think you were going to find satisfaction when you were young.
And also, like, the thing I think about a lot is I try and like keep stuff in context. Like, so like, let me take a look at what my problems are.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm sad that I'm not a famous headliner. Like, my grandfather literally had a rock fall on him in a coal mine. And he had to walk with a walker for the rest of his life. Yeah. So like, I always view my life as the pursuit of like better problems. And my problems right now are fucking awesome.
They're pretty good. They got pretty good.
So like, I feel like as comedians, we can get, it's like, just a lot of times it's like, just shut the fuck up, man. You get to pursue comedy as your dream. Yeah. Like, that's a pretty good problem.
I think we're very lucky to have put ourselves through this experience. You know?
Yeah, like
it truly is.
Yeah, a lot of shit doesn't work out, but like, dude, like there's a lot of shit that people don't even get to do it because they're not in a position. So like, I'm always thankful, and maybe that's like a cop out, but like to me, I'm like, I don't know. At the end of the day, I go to bed pretty happy. So
why even have an exit strategy? He's already happy. But you know what you did? You did seem very happy when you were talking about this idea of being a city planner.
Wouldn't that be fucking cool, man?
We live in Los Angeles, which I feel like, and maybe I'm just projecting, but it feels like this is a city planner's like sandbox galore. Like, there's a lot to be done.
There's some really cool projects going on, and I bet you being like a city planner, and this is me just totally like guessing.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it must be like being an architect, where being an architect seems like this really cool, fun thing where you could build these things that are in your head. You can make this building, and then you get confronted with like budgets and permitting, and like all these environmental impact reports. And then a lot of architects, you basically, I know so many architects who are like, yeah, so I just like work on stairs all the time. It's like the
stairs get approved. There's no red tape on stairs.
I've helped build these stairs. Like, and most architects never get to see anything they build, or it's some like strip mall that you built somewhere in like Cedar Rapids. But for me, like a public park, there's some like firms that do some really great stuff, like Pershing Square in downtown LA. Mm-hmm. They're redeveloping that park, and so they had different firms submit their proposals of like, what would you do with this park? And they also had like, it used to be this really beautiful, lush gardens park.
Yeah.
And then it was gorgeous. It was like this early 1900s, and just if they kept it like that, it would be like one of the coolest parks in LA.
There'd be grass on the ground. It would be very classic. And
then we went to like this brutalist phase where they took all the greenery out and just made it all stone and open space, and it has a very like heavy, like you don't want to spend time there.
No, and nobody does. And it's also above a
parking
garage. So it's like subservient to parking garages rather than the people that would use it.
It's a weird setup. So they pushed all these designs, and it was really cool to look at all the different firms and what they would do. And the one was more of kind of a classic European kind of like grid pattern with an X through the center.
Yeah.
And then the other one had different spaces, one for like kind of a cafe and then outdoor movie screenings and just like this kind of the way the grass intermingled with the stone and the water features that you could actually use. A lot of times in parks there's like water features, but you're not allowed to touch it.
Yeah.
And I always think that's kind of cruel, is that
Here's all this water
Hey,
you would love to.
you want to see this cool shit? Don't touch it. Like it's like a weird museum. And you're like, this is a park. You should be able to interact with like the different elements.
Yeah.
Because I love going to parks. I think they're very calming, and I wish we had more of them. And I think it's been good. There's a bunch of like studies that are showing that like if you have parks, like your citizens of your city are actually healthier. Yeah. The air is quality around the park is better. Property values are higher. So like they're this good thing to have, and I think it would be so cool to actually design things that bring so much actual value to the world.
Yeah.
Because like when you tell a joke, like one night it's awesome, and the next night it eats a bag of dicks. But like a park, to me, like okay, some homeless people are going to pee on it, but like it's still going to bring a lot of value to the people of that community.
It's going to be there for a long, long time.
Yeah, and it's a cool, and it's a meeting space, and it's a place of community, and I just think it'd be like what a great I mean, it's literally like you get to design playgrounds. Like how much like you get to make fun. Like how cool is that?
Do you have like if you could work on anything? I guess let's say the whole damn country, like a pet project where you're like, I would love to redesign that. What is it?
I would love to work on this project that they're trying to do in LA. And it's kind of an interesting project where they're trying to cap the freeway. Yeah. Down
I've seen they've been proposing that for quite some time.
And there's two different proposals. There's the 101 in Hollywood, where kind of the freeway dips and you have the walls on the side. And then there's one downtown where it's actually like different cross streets, and there's this like kind of three perfect squares in between bridges that are above the highway. And the idea is that you would basically like make the highway just a tunnel for that area, and you cap it and put a little park on it. Yeah. And this is becoming a really a more popular thing in cities that are running out of space, and they're kind of imagining new space in their cities. So that's what I love about it, is that you're kind of repurposing an area that otherwise, and I think that would be so cool, because the one in downtown LA, currently the highway separates Union Station, which is like where the trains go. It's kind of the big transit hub. Yeah. It's a beautiful old building. And then it separates from downtown. And so I think it'd be cool to have a park that kind of help joins those
links them together. Yeah.
And ultimately that's going to happen. But I think it'd be really cool to like be on the team that helps decide that. Because you're about getting feedback from the community. And like kind of like thinking like, okay, how do we best design this that would be cool for the city? And it takes years and it takes a lot of money, but like, man, to see that final product and to know that you helped build something that's going to be there for decades. Yeah.
I mean, you're going to look when you're 85 years old, you're going to look back and be like, I literally helped build that.
Yeah. They're also like redoing the LA River. And that's an amazing project too, where they're the LA River. They lined it with concrete back in the 30s, the Army Corps of Engineer, because there was a huge flood back then, killed a bunch of people.
It's basically a gutter at this point.
Yeah, so all that water basically, instead of going into the groundwater, it just shoots out to the ocean. Yeah. So they want to rip out all the concrete, and so water can more seep into the ground, but also have like a ton of walking paths and bike paths and parks and
plants.
They want to do this for like, I think 11.5 miles. The whole thing is like 55 miles long, but they want to do like a 11-mile section. Yeah. And it costs like billions of dollars, which blows my mind. I don't understand how things cost so much.
Well, it's just red tape galore. I mean, a lot of it's probably just people needing to factor in if a project is so long term, there's going to be so many delays.
Yeah, I mean, I'm imagining like if you sat down in an office, like the nuts and bolts of this. If I actually saw how the sausage get made, I'd probably be like, oh, I never want to do this.
Well, you said you were a guy who has a lot of details in his head and can organize and stuff like that. So this is a job.
I am good with details.
It's not going to be easy, and a lot of times it's probably not going to be pleasant. But will the end result be worth it? Because you're going to get frustrated at this job.
Only if I can go home on the metro, but also have like a ton of blueprints under my arm.
Just a bunch in those tubes.
Yeah, which I don't think they use anymore. But man, that'd be cool if they did.
Yeah, you'd be like, I'm bringing it back.
Yeah.
Well, I could see Ron Babcock in this career. I don't know. You might need an education for it, but
who fucking needs that? Yeah, I'll do a lynda.com course. I'll do a master class. I'll be good.
Now, we talked about the LA projects that would be your pet project, but I mean, also in this world, since you're not in entertainment, you pretty much you can live wherever the hell you want. Are you tethered to here, or would you go somewhere else?
Well, I don't know. Like, I think about that. Like, I mean, I've been out in Los Angeles for 15 years. So at this point, I've lived out here long enough where I feel like an Angelino. But I also, like, maybe kind of. So I don't know. My girlfriend, like, she might go back to school. So who knows? We might go someplace. Yeah. And I wonder about that because since I do editing, it's like, shit, where do you do that? Like New York and LA. And we're not going to leave LA to move to New York. You know, we're not going to jump from the fire into like a dirtier fire.
No.
So I don't know. I always think about that, like where I would go to. And I mean, part of me, of course, like, you know, the perfect old man dream, just end up somewhere in the country with a little farm, you know, like just that simple, like cliche thing. But like,
slowing it all down.
I have no idea.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll stick with LA then. We'll just say.
I would actually, you know what? I've never been here, but I've heard good things. And fuck it. I would say Columbus, Ohio.
Okay. It's probably...
I grew up in Scranton, Pennsylvania, Wilkes-Barre, and I've been to Cleveland multiple times. And actually, like, believe it or not, I like Cleveland because to me, it's like a version of Scranton that has it going on. And I heard Columbus is popping even more. So I would like to go, maybe Columbus.
I'm going to go on record because I ask this question of everybody when I say you don't have to live in LA. Where is somewhere you would want to live for this? I'm going to go on record and say this is probably the first and last time somebody says Columbus.
Here's the thing. You know why? Because I could take... You know how you can't buy a house here?
Yeah.
I bet you I could buy a city block in Columbus.
You're going to be a dynamo.
I could probably be the mayor for like a day. Like I feel like, you know, it'd be nice... It'd be nice to go someplace and just feel like I'm doing okay.
That's Mayor Babcock. He capped the freeways, and we love him for it. Wow, this exit strategy's turned into one hell of a situation. I think I like this. I think we got something here. Now, we're going to take a little break.
Okay.
And we're going to come back. You're going to choose a sponsor for this week's episode.
All
now,
right,
Ron, you have experience with sponsorship, correct?
I do, yeah.
And I would like to talk to you about that just a little bit before. So just know, Ron is a sponsorship expert, so you're not going to want to miss this. He's going to choose who's footing the bill for this episode tonight. We'll see you right after this with more Exit Strategy.
I love that you create your own sponsors.
Ron, I'm going to assume you have a sponsor already in mind because you already know how the sponsorship wheels a turn.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you had a previous sponsorship, kind of a cool little sponsorship opportunity when you went out on tour a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Tell the people who you had foot in the bill there for a little bit.
The good people at MercedesMotoring.com. That's MercedesMotoring.com.
Still got it.
It's a LA-based company that buys, restores, and sells vintage cars.
Yeah.
With kind of like a car concierge service where like people interested in a vintage Mercedes come to them and they help source the car for that person. And a buddy of mine who owns the company, and he knew I was going to be doing this big tour. And he's like, why don't you just like take one of my cars? And I got super nervous.
Absolutely.
Because I was like, I don't know, man, that's kind of crazy. Like it's from 1975, like it's an old car. And he basically gave me the sales pitch and that these old vintage Mercedes like will last forever.
Yeah.
Like they can go like 500,000 miles. So he's like, your little 10,000 mile road trip. He's like, it's really not that big of a deal.
That's really cute.
So I took it around the country for 3 months. It was my car. He gave me the car. I just paid for gas. And then when I came back, he kind of liked what I did with my whole marketing thing, which I kind of like I didn't have a plan for. I just kind of did it, and people responded to it. And then, and then he's like, why don't you just like work for me? And so I came back and I started working for the company because he was really cool about me going on tour and going out for auditions. And it was weird though, because it's like, he's my friend. So we didn't know like what to pay me. So finally, like I was just working there for free because we were trying to figure that out and trying to do it in a way that wasn't going to be like weird out the friendship, you know, because I never want like money to get in the middle of a friendship.
Yeah.
And so finally I was like, I tell you what, you just give me the car. And then you like never have to pay me.
Yeah.
And so we kind of came up with like a number for the car that it was worth. And like he gave me a good price for the car. And then I kind of gave him a good price for my hourly rate. And then I just divided and worked like, I don't know, like 1,000 hours or some shit. Where I just went in like as a part-time job for a year and a half.
Yeah.
And then a year and a half later, that car was mine.
Is it still with us?
Yeah, still got it, Harvey.
Still got it. Wow.
I stopped. I actually bought another car because after 4 years of driving a 1975 300D as my daily driver, I learned like maybe it's nice. Yeah, maybe have a car from the 2000s. It was a great car, but like the thing is those cars will run forever, but they do require a lot of maintenance.
Yeah.
And man, like when you burn through brake calipers, it's like you got it. Like I actually bought a parts car. I bought the same exact car for $800 from a guy in Long Beach,
just so you could have it ready.
I couldn't believe it. It actually drove. So I drove it right into my mechanic, and then I just parked it there for like a year and a half. And whenever we needed parts, he would just raid that car and take the parts off that car and put it on Harvey.
That seems like a lot of work.
It
seems like a lot of work.
I tell you what, though, Harvey, I've started renting it out as a picture car, and Harvey has a better resume than I do at this point.
Ron's a stage parent now.
Yeah.
Did it feel different, though, when you're going out on tour and you got a little bit of there's a difference to it. You got a sponsor.
It was a hugely validating thing. More so, like, for me, it was just, first of all, I love driving that car.
Yeah.
Like it's like you're sitting in a lazy boy and you have a car around you. Smoothest ride. I've never been in a car that's better. But more so than me, like it was a cool car to drive. But for other people, it was extremely validating, which is weird because it has nothing to do with comedy.
No, it doesn't.
But it's somebody saying to you, like, "Hey, man, I think you're cool," and it had this massive validating effect, and it made me seem a lot bigger than I was, which is pretty much all comedy is a desperate attempt to seem bigger than you are, and and to pull the wool over people's eyes until you get to a point where you're actually doing pretty good.
Yeah.
But it was it was like my first big sponsorship thing, and I gotta tell you, it helped out.
And knocked it out of the park. Now, Ron, I'm gonna open up the floodgates, baby. This is
I got
your
it.
next opportunity to sell out big time. I can't guarantee that we're gonna get you a car out of this, but hey, you never know. We don't have a sponsor. We need one. Ron, you're my only hope. Who is the sponsor for this week's episode of Exit Strategy?
All right, first things first. I want you to open your fridge. I want to take that LaCroix you just bought. I want you to throw that LaCroix in the garbage. Yeah. Okay. You don't need that LaCroix. You don't need to go to a store every week and buy 12 packs of LaCroix. Like you got like $4 to spend all the time. Again, week after week, doing that shit to the environment for what? A suggestion of lime? Come on. You're better than that.
Ron is standing up. He is about to hit me.
You want to go to Bed Bath & Beyond. You want to take a 20% off coupon with you, and you want to get yourself a Soda Stream maker.
All right, we're talking the Soda Stream. Now, I've heard people sing the praises of the Soda Stream before.
Jeff, get your shit together.
I'm sorry.
It is no. I'm saying your full name.
Oh, okay, that's true.
As in Jeff should get your shit together.
Yes,
you need to get your shit together.
Okay,
the Soda Stream maker is probably one of the most beneficial things that I have ever purchased.
Yes,
I use it, I guess, every day.
Yeah.
It is a great way to make club soda because you buy club soda so you can make your little vodka sodas because you don't want to go to the gym, so you're like, I'm going to drink healthier, and you have one vodka soda, and then like 2 days later you're like, fuck this vodka soda, it's already flat. Fuck that, man. Just make it fresh.
Club soda.
And like they have like a little soda kit, which I think is all garbage because it tastes like aspartame, and I don't like aspartame. It tastes like fucking weird like fairy dust that went bad.
It's chemically
gross. Yeah. But it's a great way to make club soda, and you just jazz it up. You add fresh lime juice or lemon juice. I like to put bitters in there. Get yourself a club soda with bitters. It's like having a drink, but not having a drink if you're not trying to drink, And it's like, I think it's better than LaCroix. I like it because I'm a little hippie, and it's good for the environment, but also it saves a shit ton of money. So you buy the original Soda Stream maker from Bed Bath & Beyond. I think it's like $90 or $100, but I guarantee you could get it for $50 on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. And then when you need the cartridge, the first one is $30, but then whenever you bring back an empty one and get a new one, they give you $15 off.
Yeah.
And then if you use a little 5%, 20% off coupon on that, you're getting your club soda for like $12. And that thing, we use it every day, and we change ours out every 3 to 4 months.
Yeah.
That's for like 2 adult people having at least 1 liter of club soda every night.
That's a lot of club soda.
You know, it's good.
That's really bubbly.
It's good for your digestion.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I mean, that's what the
sold.
Italians do.
That's true.
Plus, it's like fun. We call it fun water.
Yeah, you get a little kind of thing.
Yeah. I'm like, hey, do you want water? Or do you want fun water?
Well, of course I'm going to choose fun
water.
Brian.
Why? Why is it fun? Because there's bubbles. It's fun.
How many pumps of bubbles is a Ron Babcock going for?
I use 3. I go till it gives you that weird like kind of
like that. This is turning into a bomb.
And do not put orange juice in water and then try and spritz that because it will explode everywhere. They're very adamant that you don't add anything to water, and they are right.
Okay.
You do not do that.
Okay, that's fair.
Because, I was like, they're not. You can do whatever you want. And then I was like, no, I just
There's a SodaStream learning
painted
curve.
my kitchen with like sad orange juice water that took forever to scrub out.
Well, you just check Ron's tips on Apple iTunes podcasts. He'll give you all the tips.
I got to make the podcast first. But then,
It'll by the time you get your SodaStream. it'll be out.
Babcock tip. It'll be there.
We already named it. So get yourself a SodaStream today. Don't wait.
I'm telling you, man, it really. I've turned people onto it, and they've pulled me aside at parties and be like, "Hey, that SodaStream, that was a good call."
That soda you're drinking, I made that.
Yeah,
That's what you
it's
said.
nice. And you think you don't know how to make anything? You can make club soda.
Well, SodaStream, you heard it. You got an advocate. Send him out on tour. He'll hand out free SodaStreams, perhaps.
Oh my god, that would be amazing.
Just a
the
trunk full
the
SodaStream.
SodaStream comic. Oh my god, sponsored by Big SodaStream.
He'll drive around in an Oscar Mayer Wiener mobile, but it's a SodaStream.
Maybe I would have one on my back, and I have a seltzer gun, and I just would kind of shoot people after my jokes.
Now that I kind of like.
Yeah.
All right,
There's something there with that.
We're going to drop some prototypes. Now, Ron, if anybody's listening here and they're like, you know what? I want to know more about this Ron Babcock guy. Is there anything you'd like to point them towards? Something that's indicative of you?
You could follow me on Instagram at HeyRon or go to my website, heyron.com.
You have to type it in like that. Hey, Ron.
It's more fun if you wave, heyron.com. And I'm on Twitter at Ron Babcock. And I have an album on Spotify that you could listen for free called This Guy. And, you can buy it on iTunes.
I was going to say, can they buy it, too?
You can buy it, but, come on, man. I mean, you can listen to it for free.
If you got a couple bucks, just buy it.
If you really like it, you could buy it, but I'd rather you just listen to it, and I know a lot of you aren't going to buy it, but I know a few of you will be like, I'll listen to this guy.
How about this? You listen to it for yourself, and then you buy it for the person who you think would like it the most.
Man, there goes social media, Jeff.
There you go. This is Marketing 105, baby. Ron, thanks for coming by and chatting with me. I appreciate it.
I always judge a podcast by at the end of it, like how it went, by how quickly it passed, and it feels like we just started. So I had a lovely time.
We've been talking for 7 hours.
Holy shit! I gotta go home.
Oh, my wife. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to Exit Strategy. We will be back next week. Goodbye.